Hello and welcome everyone to this talk at Microsoft Ignite. I'm very happy and excited to be here to talk to you all about embracing DevSecOps on Azure and across hybrid cloud environments with the VMware Tanzu portfolio of products and services. My name is Prasad Bopardikar. I lead a team of partner solution architects inside the Modern Applications and Platforms business unit here at VMware. My team works closely with our cloud partners like Microsoft and also our ISV partners in building joint solutions for our customers. I'm joined here by my colleague, Michael James, who's also on the team. Michael, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Michael James. I am a cloud and partner solutions architect for VMware, and I'm currently working with our vendor partnerships and helping our customers as they modernize their enterprise systems and make their journey to the cloud. And that, of course, includes our friends at Microsoft with Azure.
Thank you, Michael. So let's dive right into the agenda here. Okay, so here's what we have on the agenda for you all today. First and foremost, I'll be talking about the challenges associated with app modernization initiatives that companies are taking, and especially in a hybrid cloud environment. And in the rest of the presentation, Michael is going to give us an overview of VMware Tanzu Advanced, and he will talk about exactly how VMware Tanzu Advanced help us address all those challenges that I'll be discussing. Michael will also follow up his presentation by a Tanzu mission control demonstration, where we will learn how you can manage Kubernetes clusters across multiple cloud infrastructures. So digital transformation has become a buzzword today, but we all know that almost all companies across all industries are now software companies. They are all trying to deliver the best possible user experience to their customers, and they are doing so via rich software applications and APIs. App modernization is a top priority for most CIOs, as we see in this research conducted by Forrester, where we found out that 78% of the CIOs said that improving their application portfolio is one of their top priorities. Yet, almost 48% said that they had not made any significant improvements in the last year. And the reason is that app modernization is not very easy. It is hard to align the needs of applications to the right underlying infrastructure. Modern apps and modern infrastructure go hand in hand together. You cannot just do one without the other. And then the other reason is that there is in general a lack of experience and expertise within these organizations when they are trying to move cloud native. More and more companies are looking towards public clouds. So as we see in this slide here, a study shows that last year, almost 20% of the companies spent $12 million or more on public clouds. And several of them are doing this as part of their app modernization initiative. But despite that, almost 87% of the enterprises have a key hybrid cloud strategy initiative in place. And that is simply because a significantly large percentage of their application workloads currently are running inside their on-premises data center. So it shows that how important a hybrid cloud initiative is when we are talking about application modernization. So containerization of workloads and running them on a Kubernetes-based platform is essential and central to the app mod strategy for most enterprises. If Gartner's prediction is any true, 85% of global organizations will be running containerized applications in production by 2025. And that's a significant increase from where we were at 35% in 2019. So if you are an enterprise looking to modernize your app portfolio, you have an ambitious journey ahead of you, as there are a lot of challenges involved here. Your workloads are growing, And you know that managing growing workloads and the processes associated with it is not easy. Are your teams enabled to manage workloads in complex hybrid environments? Do they have the right tool set to do their jobs at speed and at scale? Managing security, compliance, governance can all be very difficult, especially when you are running modern app workloads in a complex hybrid environment. So the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to take on the challenges when defining your strategy to accelerate your software supply chain in a hybrid cloud environment? And that's exactly where Tanzu Advanced comes in. By Tanzu Advanced, we are talking about the advanced tier of the Tanzu portfolio. When you look at a typical end-to-end software supply chain, there are several different key components involved and several different personas involved, and they all have their own separate goals and needs. Developers, operators, and security specialists have all their separate needs when they are working towards accelerating your software supply chain. Tanzu Advanced is a modular platform that aims to address all these needs. And in the rest of the presentation, we will learn exactly that from Michael as he will give us an overview of Tanzu along with a demonstration of Tanzu Mission Control. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Michael. Michael, please take it over.
All right, great. Thank you, Prasad. And let's dive into a high-level overview of some of the capabilities that Tanzu Advanced Edition into a bit more detail. So before the incarnation of DevOps, we had different teams. We had separate developer teams. We had separate operations teams. Now, from a developer standpoint, you are evaluated on the speed with which you can deploy new features to your end users. And then secondly, if you're using a lot of open source, how flexible is your company policy to allow you to do this? And then finally, most developers, for the most part, do not know or particularly even care about the underlying network and infrastructure, and neither should they be because their expertise is writing code. Now, as an operator, okay, you're mostly concerned about the stability and the consistency and the ease with which you can keep the systems running and highly available. Day two concerns such as patching and updating the systems and keeping them secure. Speed and stability have historically been at odds with one another, which resulted in the inception of DevOps. So the products and services in the Tanzu Advanced improve velocity while preserving our stability. So starting with the code on the left-hand side, developers should be given the freedom to have access to tools that will enable them to build sound microservice architectures and adhere to best practices such as 12-factor, API first, cloud-native design principles, and so forth. Now, once that code is checked in, a CI/CD pipeline needs to kick in order to build an automated the building of our binaries, okay, pulling images from a curated catalog open source services and generating container images that are then delivered to a container registry, and then scanning for vulnerabilities. Now, operators, they need to have a unified control plane for provisioning new clusters based on the most recent upstream Kubernetes releases, attaching existing clusters, right, that they already have provisioned on their public cloud providers or on-premise networks. Now, once in production, the three elements on the bottom are important. Observability, okay, being able to have health monitoring, real-time metrics across our applications and infrastructure. And then finally, connectivity and security between microservices are monumental tasks, to say the least. An external management control plane needs to be in place to balance your traffic, manage ingress and egress routing, implement service mesh patterns to properly secure and easily configure connectivity. These should be an integral part of any microservice architecture. Now, while we're going to introduce services within Tanzu Advanced that address each of these concerns, with the exception of Spring Boot, which is a Java framework, or steel toe for .NET developers for facilitating sound microservice architectures. All right, so now let's take a look at how Tanzu Advanced helps secure the container lifecycle while increasing velocity. Okay, automated pipelines that will build container images from raw source code without the need for Docker files. Be able to store images in a container registry where they can be scanned for vulnerabilities and only be pulled if they're safe. And then obviously to encrypt images when they're deployed to their target environments. So let's look at one of the first problems that we have. When you have multiple teams building containers using different operating systems, different runtime dependencies, things can get chaotic real fast. You end up with bloated containers that result in a container that uses far more resources than necessary. They're more expensive to run and slower to boot. And probably most importantly is the increased attack surface area for which you're exposing yourself to more vulnerabilities. Tanzu Build Service makes use of open source cloud native build packs. And I'm referring to the three elements you see on the left. Build packs hook into your container registry. Okay, they automatically build images from your raw source code with only the necessary runtime dependencies, eliminating that container bloat. Now on the bottom there on the left, you'll see the OS stack. These ensure that containers are built on a known secure base operating system with consistent configurations. And on the top of that, you'll see your raw source code, which can be hosted on any public repository or private repository. It's these three ingredients that are input into Tanzu Build Service, which will output an OCI compliant container image delivered to your image registry of choice. Okay, and that can be, whether it be Azure Container Registry, whether it be Docker Hub or VMware's own Harbor, and many others. The next problem we need to think about is security teams frequently object to downloading open source packages because they have no control over them or even know what's in them, right? They're built for different environments, different platforms, many different formats, which are often blacklisted from the organization. Now, with all of these innumerable tools that could be made available to developers so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, unfortunately, company policy makes it difficult, if not impossible, because these images are not consistent with the organization's golden image. Tanzu Application Catalog fixes that, enabling an organization to declare their own image OS configurations. They manage the lifecycle of the image. They configure and install agents and apply patches and whatever else company policy mandates. So the way this works is that an organization maintains a curated catalog of open source software that is then layered atop of your custom base OS and stored in the container registry of your choice right alongside the rest of your applications and company software. Now, the next problem is the communications between your services. Okay, that becomes an increasingly critical part of your hybrid strategy. We're moving away from monolithic architecture and more towards smaller microservices. And this can be complicated by the fact there are many ways to do this. Whether it's on Kubernetes using their native constructs or the variants of the public cloud offerings or across your on-premises VMs, it becomes very fragmented dealing with security and remediation. Okay, there's too many endpoints, there's application silos and disparate platforms. So Tanzu Service Mesh offers a consistent way to get control of security and communications between your microservices. It provides the granular authorization and encryption features needed to secure communications and protect that data in transit. It's a real enterprise-wide solution for securing service connectivity and works across public or private clouds and platforms. Okay, so let's move along. Let's talk about simplifying the operation of your clusters across clouds and at scale. Obviously, we want to be closely aligned with the official open source Kubernetes releases. We want to be able to apply a policy easily from a single control plane, security policies, ingress, egress rules, etc., across all of your cluster workloads. Observability, having performance and health metrics at a glance on applications across your workloads, and defining connectivity and load balancing across clouds. Now, we know that the cloud promised consolidation, but all we got was fragmentation. Okay, access management, policy and security must be configured differently for each provider. And this results in inefficient cost structures. We have resources scattered all over our different environments. It becomes difficult to track, and there's probably a lot of waste that we can trim down. So what do these operational burdens look like? Perhaps you're living this nightmare right now, or just beginning your hybrid cloud journey. Multiple screens, multiple cluster console windows for any configuration change you want to make. Your operations teams are going to have to be very well trained in all of these different numerous platforms. Tanzu Mission Control puts an end to the fragmentation by unifying access management, centralizing policy and security, and shows all of your workloads in a single management control plane dashboard. Now, it does not matter if you provision new Kubernetes clusters with the lifecycle management tools, or bring your own clusters by attaching them. You can configure also identity and role-based access control, define security policies across the board, protect your clusters with regular backups and backing up your data and your cluster, ingress, egress rules, and so much more. And by the way, Tanzu Mission Control also integrates with other Tanzu products such as Service Mesh, observability, and so forth. So that is a wrap on the presentation. If you would like more information about the products and services in the Tanzu Advanced Edition, including Tanzu Mission Control, we invite you to connect with your VMware representative. And so now we'll switch over to a demo. Okay, so we're in the Tanzu Mission Control portal, and it's on the Clusters tab, to which we can see all of our workloads across all of our public and private clouds. Now here you can see just a small sampling in my sandbox environment, but in many organizations, having a hybrid cloud topology of sorts, this grid could potentially list thousands of clusters, whether they be from Azure or GCP, AWS, vSphere, OpenShift, you name it, okay? As long as it's a conforming Kubernetes cluster, you can attach it and manage it from TMC. And it's here where we get that instant visibility to where all of our workloads are running in a single view. Without a dashboard of this nature, right, we're relying on different portals, different CLIs and such for every one of our environments. Now you'll see here in the list, we have our Tanzu Azure Ignite cluster running on an AKS cluster. And this gives us some valuable statistical information, okay? How much resources I have allocated in my CPU, how much memory, how many nodes I have running in this cluster, what is the version of Kubernetes. And the really cool thing is that whether I'm clicking into those statistics, if it's an Azure cluster or even a GKE cluster, the view is consistent, right? It's exactly the same. So the experience for the end user is going to be, convenient and very user-friendly. Now, moving along to namespaces, creating namespaces in TMC has the same effect of running a kubectl command. The differences, however, are that one, they are managed from TMC. So you'll see in this column here that some are managed by TMC and others are not. Managed namespaces means that if I create a namespace from Tanzu Mission Control, that namespace will be propagated down to my cluster and be created. And the second difference is that they can be grouped. Namespaces can be grouped into workspaces, just like clusters can be grouped into cluster groups. And these are for the purposes of factoring in policies. So it's on the Policy Assignments tab where we can create a policy that can be applied across all clusters or workspaces at a given scope. In other words, if I were to create an access policy at the root organization level, or even a cluster group level, it would cascade that policy down to all the clusters beneath that level. So all those multiple console windows we saw in the presentation for each target environment, no longer necessary. I can manage it all from here. Now you can see along the top that we have a variety of different policies we can apply: access, role-based, access control to determine who can log into the cluster and perform certain operations. Image registry policies determine which container registry the organization mandates. Network policies are your ingress, egress rules between pods and communication. Security policies specify the level of privileges a container can have in relationship to its host. Other options include, what storage volumes are allowed and so forth. And then quota is a simple policy, but very effective, because here we can determine, what teams that we've grouped into separate namespaces and workspaces and so forth, set limits, right, on how much CPU and memory resources a team can be allocated so that they don't exceed quota. So let's just look at this image registry policy in a little bit more detail here. It's very simple. I'm just going to create this policy at this workspace level. Now, Ignite demo is my namespace, and it's at the workspace level that I'm defining a registry policy that specifies only images from our Azure Container Registry are permitted to be downloaded. So all the namespaces underneath this workspace will inherit this policy. So let's test this and put this to the test. What we'll do is, the first command I want to run is namespaces. And in our cluster, you'll see that we have the Ignite demo namespace, which was propagated down because we created a managed namespace from TMC, all right, under the Ignite workspace. Now, the next command I'm going to run will succeed because I'm pulling an image from our Azure Container Registry and deploying it into the Ignite demo namespace. Okay, so that succeeded without any issue. But now this next command, if I attempt to pull an image from Docker Hub, basic Nginx image, that policy is going to prevent it. Okay, it's not even going to make it on the cluster. It's just stopped at the gate by the admission controller. And you can see here, only allowed image patterns are from Tanzu Registry via our Azure Container Registry. All right, so that is a wrap for the demo portion. If you would like more information about the products and services in Tanzu Advanced Edition, including Mission Control, we invite you to contact your VMware representative, and we'd be delighted to go into a lot more depth about any of the products that we talked about in our presentation. Thank you very much.